A dear colleague recently told me, Jackie, be sure to take time to breathe. So I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to breathe. I want to thank you, George, for that heartfelt introduction, which I'm not sure I deserve. I want to thank you, President Hurwitz and President McMillan, for installing me with the chains of office. I am honored that you have to follow in your footsteps as you are an important part of Albright's history. And thank you, Chairman Jeff Joyce, for helping to lay the path to get me here in a really weird way, and for installing me in the office today. I am indeed grateful to be working with you. Michelle Obama once said, "We learn about gratitude and humility that so many people have had a hand in our success." And she is right. I have been ever so lucky to have so many people in my life who have cared so much to put time and effort into my success. George Rose was one of those people. He accepted a scared graduate student into his lab. He launched me into the field of computational understanding of protein structure and function, a passion I still have today. When I considered various career transitions, George was always there for advice, for brainstorming, and yes, the story is true. I am back in academia because of George Rose. Thank you, George, for all that you have done for me. There are so many other folks who have had a hand in my success. So many folks who have traveled here to celebrate with me today. One of those is one of my students from the University of Albany, Janine, who became the very first employee at Gene-Formatics, traveled from San Diego to be with us today. Thank you, Janine. To the last PhD student, the last doctoral student I had at Wake Forest, Janelle. Janelle traveled here with her husband from Florida to be with us today. Janelle, thank you. And one of my very last undergraduate students, Julia. Julia worked with me for 5 years, even though she was a student at a different institution. She became the daughter that Brian and I never had. Julia, thank you for being here today. To friends from every state in which I've lived and relatives from just as many states, I want to thank the close to 70 family and friends who come here to celebrate with Albright College and with me today. I want to express my deepest appreciation to my mom, Millie Folk Fetro, also an Albright grad, class of 1958, and my dad, David Fetro. These two amazing people helped me to become the person I am. They challenged me to reach beyond the limits I set for myself. Mom and Dad aren't here with us today, but I am sure, absolutely positive, they are partying and celebrating us with us. I also want to thank my sister Steph, my brother Brad, and their spouses Mike and Bernie. We have an amazing family. Steph, Brad, and I are now 3 presidents. Brad, the youngest and the first to be a president well before the rest of us, president of Fetro Electric, the company he founded. My sister, Steph, the middle child, she was the second to become a president, the president of Evolitica, a company she founded. And me, I'm the oldest, the slowest, and the last to become a president. So we are 3 presidents. We have always celebrated each other's successes, and I am so happy and grateful they are here today. And finally, my wonderful life partner, Brian Kell. I'm truly the luckiest person in the world to have my partner in Brian. Thank you, Brian. Indeed, so many people have had a hand in my success. I am lucky in so many ways. Today, this inauguration is a celebration of Albright College and the city that we call home, Reading, Pennsylvania. The ceremony here has been all about Albright College and Reading, Pennsylvania. The prelude, played by the Albright College Symphonic Band, was the Penn Wheelman March, written in 1895 and dedicated to the Penn Wheelmen of Reading, Pennsylvania. The processional, also performed by the Albright College Symphonic Band, was accompanied and joined by our wonderful musician friends from Reading High School. The Star-Spangled Banner, the Song for Albright, and our upcoming alma mater, performed by the Albright Angels and the Maine Men, two of Albright's ever so talented musical student-led singing groups. And finally, the recessional is going to be fun. The music is performed by the Reading Samba Band, led by Albright's own A.J. Merlino. And our music at the after-college party is going to be performed by Remember Jones. This is going to be very cool. They're a phenomenal big band with a wide repertoire. Come to the amphitheater and dance. This band also includes A.J. Merlino, one of Albright's own. Indeed, we have a lot to celebrate about Albright College and Reading, PA. Upon my appointment to this position, a person very dear to me said, "All of life's best journeys should bring you back to where you started." And so he was right. My life's journey returns me to where I began, Albright College, so many years ago. I left this very building, Science Hall, 4 decades ago, to begin a new stage of life and career. I had hopes, but I could not have expected this life journey, a journey filled with joy, opportunity, serendipity, and risk. Albright College, a place where I discovered myself, a place where I learned how to take advantage of life's opportunities and evaluate its risks. I have now chosen to return. I can imagine some of you asking yourselves why. Why this particular place? Why this particular time? Today I want to share with you my story so you understand why. Because of my passion in higher education, my belief in the boundary-crossing interdisciplinary education founded in the liberal arts that the Albright College offers, and my underlying commitment to the importance of addressing the social and racial inequities in higher education and in our society. My firm belief that Albright is and can be at the forefront of higher education at this moment in time. If we relearn to tell our story, this is what has led me to this moment with you. Albright College. Reflect for a moment, if you will. Take a deep breath. To those of you who are current students, picture in your mind your favorite memory of this place so far. To those of you who are faculty and staff, consider what is the most memorable thing about your job at Albright. To those of you who are alumni or alumni, what do you remember most? What is your happiest memory, most vivid memory of Albright College? My 1980 memories of Albright College are many. Professor Anadora Shirk, who made room in her interim technical writing class during my first year here because she said, "Jackie, lasting bonds and friendships are formed during interim," and she was right. To Professor Morgan Heller, organic chemistry professor, who gave me the most difficult unknown in organic chemistry. For those of you who are not chemists, the word unknown has a special meaning. It's where the professor gives you this little vial, and the little vial has a chemical in it, and you just have to figure out what it is. It was a puzzle. I loved it. The first 2 unknowns were actually pretty easy, and so me, being who I am, I challenged Dr. Heller. I said, "Give me the most difficult one." And Dr. Heller, being who Dr. Heller was, he did do that. I struggled with that unknown. I struggled with it for some time. I still remember ever so clearly that day in organic lab, sitting at my lab bench, and Dr. Heller sitting over there in the little armchair desk that he always sat in. Dr. Heller said, "Jackie, step back and think." step back and think about the assumption that you are making that may not be valid. And he was right. I quickly solved the unknown based on that advice. And this skill, this stepping back to recognize unrecognized assumptions, has served me well throughout my life. Professor Gary Adelstein, whose interdisciplinary course, what we called back then an IDS course, his course in the Rebels of the 60s and 70s, I did not want to take. I mean, seriously, I was a biochemistry major, I'm a science major. I do not want to take a course that's about film and about art. And an exploration of Rebels of the 60s and 70s, not my cup of tea. So I waited, I put off my IDS requirement until my senior year, and then this was the only course that was left, and I complained bitterly. And I have to admit, I really didn't like it much when I started. My mind was closed. But through that course and the teaching that he did, and by the end, my mind had begun to open up to a new way of thinking about art and film. And to this day, I enjoy going to art film festivals, and I enjoy going to art museums because of that course. And most importantly, Professor Frida Texter. Alums and students, think back to your first days on campus, to your orientation. I remember my orientation. Today, during orientation, we have the pops, and their enthusiasm and excitement fill this campus with joy. I remember my own orientation, and here's the story I remember most vividly. We had to come to meet our faculty advisors in their offices. We had to go by ourselves and go find them, and I came to Science Hall. It was smaller then, but it was still intimidating. I got lost. I finally found her office, and there were 5 or 6 of us, and we crammed into her office. She's a chemistry professor. There was chemistry paraphernalia around, Erlenmeyer flasks and burettes, and it was intimidating. Dr. Texter, she gave us our academic schedules. She told us what to expect the first day in class. She gave us advice on how to succeed during our first semester in college. Frida was my academic advisor during my 4 years here. She was my research advisor, an awesome project on the enzyme, the reaction kinetics of an enzyme called pyruvate dehydrogenase. At the same time, I served as her teaching assistant in the biochemistry lab. She helped me when it came time to identify a graduate school that satisfied for me the personal and professional needs I had at the time. She led me to George Rose's lab. She's been a lifelong mentor and friend, and until last year, she would meet with me and my students at our annual symposium and have dinner with us. Frida has long been committed to Albright College. Last year, a tragic medical event sadly changed her life. She was planning to be here today, but was unable to do so. And I am grateful, and I publicly state that I am grateful for all the ways that she played a part in my journey to this moment today. My Albright College journey. So why did I come back to the place I started? Why do I return to this place I remember so vividly? I fundamentally believe that education is about students, the teaching, the advising, the mentoring of students. This is, in the stories you've heard today, what Albright does best. I fundamentally believe in equity in higher education, one where the barriers to full participation by all community members are eliminated. Albright names and claims a commitment to educating students of promise. Albright has made strides in its commitment to diversity. In equity, we have a ways to go, and I'm here to help us forge that future. A future where the education and life success of our students remains first and foremost the thing we do. A future where we stand as the example that educating students like me, students of academic promise, educating us with a high-quality, boundary-crossing education that encourages us to move beyond our disciplinary limits while holding tight to the strong foundations in the liberal arts. A future in which Albright College is fully equitable, where the barriers to full participation by all community members are eliminated. This is my dream of Albright College. Since my return to Albright College, I've been pursuing a series of small group conversations. I've called this my year of listening and learning. I've talked to close to 200 members of this community, During these confirmations, I have heard affirmation that this learning community of my dreams is a community that Albright College imagines itself to be. And I'm here to be part of the work, to help lead the work that will enable us to get here. So we must ask the next question. How do we move boldly towards this dream? The future, make no bones about it, the future is a scary place for anyone. Scary place for me, just even thinking about being a president as I did last year, and especially for the people at Albright College. As we come to understand our history, it makes sense that this would lead us to consider our future, possibly with fear. Declaring financial exigency, and then the repeated and ongoing issues with finances, we come to a fear of losing our jobs, losing our college, losing ourselves. It's quite possible, perhaps even likely, that you may not experience this as fear. To these eyes that I bring back to my alma mater, this fear does permeate what we do. It permeates how we interact with one another. It brings each of us to a full stop, a duck in the snail shell mentality. Let's be safe. Let's do it the way we've always done it. Today, we name and claim that fear. Today, we recognize and honor our past, its struggles and its pain. Today, we learn from it to grow stronger. We are the school that is now looking and will continue to look boldly at who we are, at our organizational practices and norms, our financial assumptions and models, until we create that sustainable future that we all imagine, where our focus is on student success together. At the same time, we will honor our commitment to the best of what we are. Recently, Jacques Berliner-Brau, who delivered the 2015 Hurwitz Lecture at Albright College, wrote a book, Campus Confidential: How College Works or Doesn't. In the book, he laments how at other schools, professors don't teach undergraduates. And I know this experience. I've lived it at other institutions. The author points to small liberal arts colleges where the emphasis is on teaching and as a counter to this phenomenon. And he specifically pulls out Albright College as an example. He writes that he was surprised by, and I quote here, how robust its commitment to the arts was. He talks of the opportunity of places like Albright for undergraduates to forge meaningful relationships with their professors. Opportunities to forge meaningful relationships with our professors, that is what Frida did for me, and that is what, as you've heard today, what Albright College has always done and what we remain committed to doing. I've heard it consistently during my listening and learning conversations. When asked to share a story about what you're most proud about, faculty and staff uniformly talk about the students. Talk about talking to a student, supporting a student, just having a conversation, helping a student find success in the classroom, on the athletic field, in our dormitories. Our stories show our passion individually and as an institution to help our students succeed. And we recognize and celebrate that long-lasting commitment, our heritage to supporting and celebrating meaningful relationships between faculty and students. At its best, this is what higher education should be. At Albright College, this is what higher education is. At the same time, we must articulate and claim our core values. We need to be grounded in these values to assure our visions and plans for the future align with our core values. And as you've heard several times in this ceremony, we look to the Albright College seal for those values. So your seal is in your program. It's also up here on the banner. Take a look, pull that out and take a look at it. Think about what you see, the symbols and the words. I see 4 symbols and 2 key words. the symbols of an open book, the symbols of a lamp, a stack of books, a laurel wreath, and words that represent our core values. So let's think about each of those. The open book affirms the value we place on academic freedom, in which all forms of truth may be pursued with rigor, candor, and openness. Thus, we teach and we practice in our everyday experiences what we have learned as scholars and researchers, to verify and validate facts and sources, to search for unrecognized assumptions, and to distinguish correlation and causation. Even as in the last couple of turbulent and emotional times of the recent weeks, where it is difficult and challenging to do so. When the easy path would have been to do otherwise, or when the emotional path prevents us from considering how to do so, we follow our values. The open book lies atop a lamp. This lamp affirms the value we place on lifelong love of learning, the wisdom and understanding as the basis for success in life and career. The stack of books is key. It represents the value we place on the interdependency of all forms of knowledge. It calls us to be curious, to exceed our interdisciplinary or disciplinary limits, and to leave behind thinking inside the proverbial box. Albright College has pursued this form of education from the interdisciplinary IDS courses when I was here to the connections and synthesis courses, the majors and co-majors and interdisciplinary majors of our curriculum today. This experience of crossing boundaries is probably familiar to many of the alums of Albright College. Indeed, it is to me. It allowed me to hold faculty appointments in different institutions in different disciplines: biological sciences, molecular biology, computer science, physics, and chemistry. One of my colleagues has recently said, "How is that possible?" And I said, "I think my education at Albright College." This interdependency and boundary crossing also applies to the liberal arts and the professions. The values, knowledge, and skills learned in the liberal arts disciplines complement the values, skills, and knowledge learned in the professional programs. Albright has long recognized this and excels at it, both in our traditional residential college and in our School of Professional Studies. The discipline might be professional, but its foundation lies in the liberal arts, experience, and learning that are essential for success in life's 21st century world. And now I turn to the words. Veritas et justitia, truth and justice. These words are especially important and especially critical for us today, particularly at this moment. These words affirm that the search for knowledge should not be separated from the search for wise and just solutions in human affairs and the stewardship of the natural world. Let me repeat that. The words truth and justice affirm that the search for knowledge should not be separated from the search for wise and just solutions in human affairs and in the stewardship of the natural world. The combined pursuit of truth and justice means that we honor, nurture, and celebrate human diversity in all its forms and call into question whatever negates or endangers the dignity and worth of the human spirit. Recent events, both those of last fall and those of the last several weeks, emotional and turbulent times for everyone, the members of this community and well beyond our borders, might make some call into question whether we continue to hold dear to this value. I say it does not. I name and claim the struggle and the confusion between this value and our current world as a legitimate struggle. Albright College is the place where we are and will continue to actively engage it. However messy the process, this is the challenge, the open conversation, the dialogue, the willingness to continue to learn, to validate facts, to review decisions. This is what we must learn to do. In this day, as we all continue to duck into our political and social corners on the internet, as we live in the echo chambers of social media, listening to only what we already believe, this struggle, engaged in the open, armed with the skills of active listening and civil discourse, is what our world needs today. I celebrate what I have heard during the past several weeks, that is, Albright's willingness to engage this complex question. Albright's willingness to begin to continue to evolve its culture towards greater equity, towards social and racial justice, towards mutual understanding, empathy, fairness, and trust. Moving forward, these conversations, this dialogue, these challenges, they will not be swept under the rug. No, they will not. Instead, we will move forward as lions, as Albright lions, to challenge, to tackle, to be leaders in understanding, working hard, and knowing that our work will not be easy, and that it may and will be challenged. A place where we honor and nurture and celebrate human diversity in all its forms, where we call into question whatever negates and endangers the human spirit, where we celebrate the freedom to be curious, to learn, to cross boundaries, and to move outside of our comfortable boxes. An open book, academic freedom. A lamp, an invitation to lifelong learning. A stack of books, encouragement to cross intellectual and cultural boundaries. And words, truth and justice. There's one symbol on the seal that I forgot. How many of you recognize which one it is? The laurel wreath, and I invite you to consider a few questions. Why a laurel wreath? The laurel wreath is over the top of the other symbols. Why a laurel wreath? What did the laurel wreath mean and symbolize in ancient times? What does it mean and symbolize for Albright College today? In ancient Greek and Roman times, a laurel wreath symbolized victory. Laurel wreaths were used as crowns. They were awarded to victors in athletic and other competitions. But what is victory if it is not overcoming of obstacles and overcoming of our own weakness? I say for Albright College, the laurel wreath is the key. For us, it means that we recognize the moment we have right now, both in Albright's history and in world history. For us, it means we recognize the magnitude of the challenge that remains in front of us, brought to the fore by recent events, and our willingness to embrace who we are, who we want to be, and tackle the challenges that brings. For us, it means that we focus on our core values, an intentional commitment to our students, keeping our vision broad, engaged in our community, and engaged with the world. We will move boldly into the future. We will be victorious. We are Albright College. We are lions. Indeed, we are a pride of lions. As my brother said, all of life's journeys, the best journeys, should bring you back to where you started. I return to Albright College to celebrate and enhance the best of what we are, our commitment to lifelong and inclusive journey, truth and justice, moving beyond our disciplinary limits and thinking outside the proverbial box. We bring the best of who we are as teachers and as scholars and as students to the classroom, across our campus, and across our world. I am looking forward to working with each and every one of you as we move Albright College boldly into the future.